Rep the South Side whenever you pay with your White Sox debit card from Wintrust Community Banks and score perks like free ATMs, no monthly fees, and a $300 opening bonus. Pay with pride every time with Wintrust, Chicago's bank.
And I could tell within the first 20 minutes of walking in that clubhouse in spring training that the culture is right, that being said, I don't know if we're going to win 100 games this year. I don't know if we'll make the postseason, but I can guarantee we're going to be ready to play every single day, and we're going to leave everything we have out on that field. And, off the field, we're going to have fun together. And I think that that speaks volumes of, Chris and Will bringing in the right guys and turning this around.
One of the most impressive human beings, impressive players on this White Sox team is a guy that White Sox fans probably just know for him robbing Andrew Vaughn of that home run last year, but there's a lot more to Travis Jankowski, and he is our guest on this edition of the White Sox podcast, brought to you by Wintrust, Chicago's bank. Show your team pride with the White Sox debit card. Get yours at wintrust.com/Sox, member FDIC, EHL lender. So lots going on in this conversation with Travis Jankowski, who will explain why, after trying out with the Cubs in the spring training, he realized the best fit for him was the White Sox. He has a relationship that goes way back with Will Venable, and he's going to talk about what Will brings to the team, what's going on inside the White Sox clubhouse, and also why this thing might turn around quicker than you think. Travis Jankowski, my guest today on the White Sox podcast. Here we go. All right, I'm here with Travis Jankowski. So, Travis, you're here with the White Sox, but when spring began, you were with the Cubs. So how did this whole thing play out for you this winter, and how did you end up with the Cubs coming then to the White Sox?
Yeah, so I was a late sign with the Cubs. They called me, I think it was on a Wednesday, reached out to my agent. I got on the phone with them on a Thursday, had a good conversation with them, and on a Friday I was on a flight out to 𝗻𝗄cie, Arizona. And then, obviously showing up late to camp. I think it's tough to get a read on anyone in spring as it is, but as they had to set their rosters for Japan, I got called into the office and said, hey, you're not going to be on the 31-man travel list to Japan, which was fine. And I just asked, I said, if I'm not going to be on the 31, will I make that 26 in a couple weeks? And, I said, just be honest with me. And they said, probably not. So I said, do I have to wait until the 22nd to get my release, or can I get out of here today? And they said, feel free to shop around. So I was on the horn with Will pretty quick after that.
Will Venable.
Yep.
You guys go back because you played with him, and then you were playing under him, right? When he was the bench coach with the Rangers.
Yeah, so played with Will in a few spring training games out in San Diego. Great mentor, awesome guy. He might have been even a better player than he is a manager. Just awesome guy, same personality, just chill Will. So he was always a veteran I looked up to. And, then the past 2 years in Texas being under Will was awesome. Awesome for me, awesome for all the guys in the clubhouse, and honestly, I think awesome for Will too. Learning from 𝗏𝗀, being around 𝗏𝗀 a lot, who's arguably one of the best managers in the game. So I think a lot of what he learned over the past 2 years is really going to carry forward for his career. Yeah,
what did he show you as a bench coach that was an example of, I think he'd be a good manager?
I think his personality sticks out to me the most, Even in that World Series run, we had a lot of highs and a lot of lows. And as a player, you can always kind of feel nervous energy from a coach. Mm-hmm. There was none of that with Will. There was none of that with 𝗏𝗏. So I think, as long as Will can keep that personality, which I think is just kind of ingrained in him, I think his tenure as a manager is going to be very long, and there's going to be a lot of wins that come with it.
Right, so when you were leaving the Cubs, you called Will. What did you say to him? What did you ask him?
I asked him, is there a spot? And at that point, Benny had the broken hand. And I had a lot of conversations with Will in the offseason. So I kind of knew, coming in, it would be, something where if an injury happens, there's probably a spot. If not, probably start in AAA. But it was a transparency from Will and from Chris that really drew me in. They weren't telling me what I wanted to hear. They were telling me what was the actual fact and what was going to, play out in the future. So, once I saw Benny was down, I said, well, this might be a good spot now. Then he came back, but the spot still opened up.
All right, so this is a team that's young, and it's also got some veterans here as well. What have you felt even from the first moment you got into the clubhouse in spring training, what's the vibe and what's really inside that clubhouse right now?
Positivity. I think coming off the year that the White Sox had last year, it's important to create a culture of positivity. Don't let 2024 roll over into 2025. It's a new team, a new manager, and the energy's high. We do have a lot of young guys that bring a ton of energy. And there's a good veteran group here, too, that, these younger guys can kind of lean on, and we can help them navigate through a 162-game season, knowing that there's going to be many highs and many lows throughout that.
So you're here. You got Mike Tauchman on the injured list, and when he is activated, what's that going to mean for you? Do you think you're going to hook on? I'm sure you hope to.
Absolutely, yeah. I love it here. The clubhouse is great, like we just talked about. For me, I'm taking it day by day. I'm trying to do everything I can to keep these pinstripes on, to keep this jersey on, and to show the front office that, I can help this team win, not only today but in the future as well. Yeah,
I hope you don't mind me asking you this, but you had a little conversation with Chris Getz when you came over here. What did you tell him what you wanted to bring to the team?
For Chris, I told him, there is a young group here, and over the past 2 years, we did have some younger players in Texas with Wyatt Langford, Evan Carter, and I really tried to feed into those guys. I don't want to ever take credit for their career, and these guys are so much more talented than I ever was or ever will be. But little bits of advice, to get them through the course of a season, to let them know that the big leagues is a little different than where you've played before, and these guys weren't very well seasoned in the minor leagues, so I think they relied on that. But to me, it's really just letting them know, be the same person every single day. If you want to bring energy every day, bring energy every day. Don't let an 0 for 10 slump deter who you are as a player and as a person. And that's kind of what I tried to help Evan and Wyatt out with the most.
When did you figure this out? Who helped you?
I still don't have it figured out.
Well, you said you know what you're talking about.
No, I had a lot of good veterans. And they weren't necessarily outfielders. Clayton Richard was a great vet who helped me out. Yeah, he was
Sox
awesome. Eric Hosmer, probably one of the most influential. I'm trying to think other ones that I've learned from. Bryce in Philly helped me out a ton, and coming from, Bryce, who's an everyday guy, to make time for a bench player and a younger guy coming up meant a lot. It's really been a whole group. Robbie Grossman, who was here for a little bit, helped me out. But no, I'm still picking brains. I'm still trying to figure it out. Will help me out, and even 𝗁𝗐 𝗏𝗍 is helping me out here a ton. So there's always guys who have been around who are going to be able to help you out, and I just hope to kind of build that legacy in the game as being one of those guys who continues to pass it down.
All right, so you knew this question was coming. The catch you made last year. It was a game-winning home run. It was supposed to be. Looked like it was going to be. 99.9% of the time it's going to be. Andrew Vaughn, walk-off three-run homer, but there you were climbing the wall and making that insane catch. How many times has this been brought up to you since you came over here to the White Sox?
We're in the dozens now. But I think I'm slowly crossing off. I hit the players with it pretty early, the coaches pretty early, media was next, and now it's few security personnel here at the ballpark who are still asking me about it. So I think within the next week I'll have it all crossed off.
Best catch of your life?
Yes. With everything considered, being a walk-off home run, that was hands down the best catch of my life.
So I was literally talking with Jonathan Cannon yesterday. He brought it up, and he said that is the greatest catch I've ever seen under the circumstances. Besides the catch itself, you're going over the wall, but to rob someone of a game-winning home run. Have you talked to Jonathan Cannon about it?
I don't think so, but maybe we'll hit him up tomorrow. I'm sure I'll get that question tomorrow.
Yeah, and now you remember the White Sox, obviously. What was your conversation like with Vaughn when you came over here?
First thing, we made eye contact, started laughing, gave him a big hug. I said, sorry, Vaughnie. I said, if you end with 399 homers, or if it's that century mark that you're missing, I said I'll buy you something nice for it. So we laugh about it, and Vaughn, he's an awesome guy, as you guys know. So there's no hard feelings.
All right. So it's happened in the regular season. It had happened in spring training. I looked out and I saw the outfield, and it was you, Michael A. Taylor, and Luis Robert Jr. This is, as far as I can tell, the best defensive outfield I've ever seen with the White Sox. Where does this one rank for you? And you three are out there together.
That's hands down the best I've ever been a part of. I don't foresee too many balls getting down out there, and I think the three of us play outfield kind of the same way, as far as we love taking away hits, and we view as, taking away a hit is just as good as getting a hit, so shoot, if I'm going to be 0 for 4 but take 2 hits away, I'm 2 for 4 in my mind.
Well, I look at it as you're not just 2 for 4, you're 2 for 4 with a couple RBIs, or maybe 1 RBI.
Exactly.
You just drove in a run by you preventing one.
Exactly.
There should be a stat like that. A few more questions. Winning teams versus losing teams. Being on a winning team, being on a losing team, and when do you know a team has the potential to turn things around, flip a script like this White Sox team is trying to do?
Pretty early, and my answer with that is always culture, and I could tell within the first 20 minutes of walking in that clubhouse in spring training that the culture is right, that being said, I don't know if we're going to win 100 games this year. I don't know if we'll make the postseason, but I can guarantee we're going to be ready to play every single day, and we're going to leave everything we have out on that field, and off the field we're going to have fun together. And I think that that speaks volumes of Chris and Will bringing in the right guys and turning this around.
It's interesting you say that, because that really speaks to what needs to happen. And you could have a big losing streak, but it's how you get out of it as a team, right?
Yep.
Who's in there? I mean, you don't know it yet, or maybe you already know it. Who are the loudest voices in that room right now?
Well, the loudest is Maton. I think you guys might all know that.
I don't think people know that. I mean, he's new to the White Sox. A lot of people don't know that about Nick Maton.
It'll get out there soon enough. If you guys don't know, he's the guy who brings the energy every day. Corey Lee, he's there keeping the mood light. You got Martin Perez, who's the same guy every single day. Very relaxed, always smiling, in a good mood. And I think you pretty much have it in every single position too. Michael A. brings energy every day. In the outfield, you got Maton. In the infield, you got Corey with the catchers and Martin with the pitchers. And I think that's what you need, because we're not cliquey in that clubhouse, but we do outfield work together. The pitchers hang out together more than position players and pitchers hang out. So you need that energy brought from different assets on the team.
Biggest surprise you've found with this team?
Biggest surprise. You know what? I would, again, it comes back to positivity and culture. After last year, I really didn't know what the clubhouse was going to be like. I haven't played with a ton of these guys. I played against a lot of them, but never been in the same clubhouse with them. So to walk in and see the positive vibe after a down year was really encouraging, And I always say that, championship teams have talent, but, the championship caliber isn't built without culture. And again, I hate to keep bringing it up, but what Chris and Will have done, bringing in the right guys, is huge, and as a White Sox player, and I think the fans too, they need to realize that this is going in the right direction.
You're going to get a torpedo bat?
I'll do anything to get a hit. I'll get a whole barrel on that thing. I'll get a torpedo bat. I'll do whatever I can to increase my chances of getting a hit. So if I can find a model that I like and is similar to the one I have, I'm definitely going to look into the torpedo bats.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to make sense, but it also could affect your swing path, right? You have to look into that as well, right?
Exactly, yeah. Where the weight is always going to, deter your swing path, and, your bat speed coming through the zone. All that can get shifted with just the slightest little changes in a bat model. So if I can find one that stays pretty true to what I have now, I'm all for it.
Okay. Well, hey, you've been you are a great addition to this team. I love what you're saying, what you're doing. You do a lot of little things. I'm a big fan of the little things, drawing walks. You had a bunt single.
Yep.
Hold on, can we talk about the bunt single? You're leading off the inning, you bunt. So what was behind that?
Well, to me, Paddock had a long first inning, gave up a couple runs, and to me, one of the best things you can do is get a walk or get on base, any way to get on base and just get that pressure back on him immediately and don't let him settle in, Leading off the inning, I know Paddock's not a huge walk guy, pretty big strike thrower, so immediately it was, all right, if that third baseman's giving me any daylight, I'm laying one down and trying to leg it out, and there was just enough daylight to beat it by a hair, and, we got a good little rally going from that.
Yeah, you did. it's the game within the game, and you guys are playing it, and I love watching it, so appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, Travis Jankowski here on the White Sox podcast. 𝗏 Harrelson, take it away.
All right, Art Chuck, this edition of the White Sox podcast is over.